Fireman.
You fireman?
Yeah.
Anderson, what are you gonna be when you grow up? You gonna be a fireman?
Yeah.
You can be a firewoman. That'd be so good. I mean, just a huge thank you, and not just to the on-duty first responders that responded that day, but to the our child is wanting to go play outside while we're talking about this. But just open the door. Just let him go outside.
The healing for some is faster. The healing for some is slower. You know, and with the anniversary coming up, it sparks a lot of memories. Memories that may have been stashed away for a bit, but come back. August 31st started as a normal day.
Yeah. Kids were enjoying a Saturday with their parents. People were going shopping. People were out with their families.
We're going to a restaurant to have a meet with some friends and family. We were going to sit out on the patio at 42nd and JBS to just meet up and celebrate some recent promotions and birthdays with some friends.
That day was an ordinary day. We decided as a family we were going to go watch a movie. But I remember that Saturday we had chosen an afternoon movie and we decided to go, and so we went.
It was my normal work day, and I was working the day shift, came in about 5 a.m. and was just doing the normal going call to call.
And we just happened to sit down. It wasn't no more than 2 or 3 minutes after we got there. We heard the gunshots go off. The panic and confusion at first is you didn't realize what was happening. Everybody just kind of went to the ground and laid flat on the ground. But you didn't really know why. It was just instinct to get down. Once we started kind of processing what was going on.
Everybody over here, I got
I was pretty used to the voices on the radio, dispatch, the other officers, and you could tell it was something different in their voice and the way they were dispatching, and just the sense of urgency behind it and the amount of stress in their voice.
And it was pretty hard, just, you know, as soon as you disconnected with one, the phone would light up for another call.
Say a quick prayer on my way there, because it's already starting to set in that what kind of situation we're facing, and we kind of, in this line of work, we have to come to terms and find that peace that we do have a dangerous job. Any call we go on could go sideways, and but this was one of those ones where it's already sideways, it's already chaos.
I was going to another call, going northbound on East Loop from I-20, and dispatch calls out on the radio that a trooper had been shot in Midland on I-20. So I figured I'm close by, I'm going to turn around and start hitting lights and sirens his direction, when dispatch suddenly calls out that there's another gunshot victim at the Loop in I-20 in that area. And I was right there, so I found that victim and did what I could to help. And while the ambulance was you know, they showed up pretty quick. They were taking care of him. Dispatch says, shooter's northbound on the loop from I-20 again. And I'm like, I'm right here. So I had a couple backup officers meet me there. We waited, he never passed by. In the vehicle that they had said that he was in.
And while we have trained, I mean, we've done the alert classes, the TCCC for active shooter, this one was going to be different. You know, anytime you mention active shooter to someone, they picture a school or a courthouse or a hospital or a business. This one was different in the fact that we didn't know where he was at. Every law enforcement entity that came in to help, they were chasing a ghost.
Went out there like we normally do to start kind of triaging the situation. And the amount of people in that area was kind of unbelievable. Everybody was helping. There were so many people going from car to car to see what was going on, see who they could help. And we just kind of joined in with all the other people doing that.
Brad and Kellen, who were off duty that day, to be able to tell them, no, we've got this, y'all go on to another scene that needs you, we can handle this. I just think that bravery and that choice to very literally run into gunfire when you don't have to is what makes all of you heroes. And I know that all of our first responders would do that given the chance. And it's just something that we will always be grateful for, and we will always call all of y'all our angels, our guardian angels, because you've not only proved it to us that day, but you just prove it to all of our city and our community every day that y'all choose to protect us.
The one thing that I'm very proud of with OFR, our guys, they continued to work. And while it may have fazed them, they continued to do what they're supposed to do.
When I couldn't get out onto 191 because so many people were leaving the Synergy, I turned my patrol unit around, started going down Dr. Emmett Headley, the street behind the Synergy, and looking at my screen to check the details of the call, bullets started flying through my door. And my instant reaction was to just duck over to the right. And it happened in a matter of seconds. I felt the bullet hit my leg, and I felt the bullet hit my right hand. And I'm thinking, my instant thought when I ducked over was, I'm about to get hit in the side, I'm done. And once I stepped out of my car and realized, yeah, I could feel the blood running down my leg. I could feel it puddling in my boot and in my glove. But once I realized I was okay, for the most part, nothing else mattered. I knew that somebody behind me had been hurt. I didn't know how bad. So it was more just like I'm not worried about myself at that point. I have to help. It's what we do. I kept hearing gunshots. I thought it was him shooting at me still. But when I got out, I looked back and Officer Owens from Midland was a little ways behind me, covered in blood. I started trying to run to help him, and I didn't hear anything else, see anything else. I focused on him, and somebody else had showed up to help him, told me to run and get a car, so I ran and got a car, tried to get a car, but an ambulance showed up to help. You know, they picked him up right when I was about to take him a car.
Next thing we know, we're getting a call for a gunshot victim at 191 in Faudree. Officers start responding there from our location, and I see a few go, so I'm like, okay, they have it covered. I'm just gonna stay here because we didn't have anybody else. I looked around, there's no other officers on the backside with me in case he came around. noticing that, I decided to pull my patrol unit out into the roadway since gunshots were coming from the west, or there was a gunshot victim directly to our west, and I had the group of civilians in that open field to my east. So I just tried to put myself and my unit in between them. And then next thing we know, we hear the gunshots to our west. The ones that, it wasn't until months later, because it's one of those things where I don't know how to talk to other officers or just bring it up out of the blue. I don't know if it's sensitive, if it's a sensitive subject for them, if it's going to trigger anything. So I don't know how to bring it up, how to, other than ask them, are you okay, how you doing? But it wasn't until a couple months later that I realized that those gunshots that myself and Officer Prater heard were the ones that hit Corporal Santana.
I do firmly believe that it was the grace of God, that it happened the way that it did, because it stinks that I got shot, but him shooting at me alerted everybody else that he was going to that theater. No telling who would have been hurt or killed over there if they hadn't have known. I didn't know he was coming at me. Nobody was looking for a white van. Everybody, all the intel we got was mail truck. What do you think when you think mail truck? One of those square mail trucks, the traditional ones. And even though there's a postal logo on the white vans, I mean, I just saw a white van driving towards me, and it was just very brief. It's nothing that I gave a second thought to because I'm focusing on trying to get to a victim, and there was just so many things to think about at once that even thinking about it now is just stressful how it played out. But once a bullet started coming through my door, there's no other way to explain how it didn't hit me on my left side where I'm against the door, and it hit me over here on the right side where I was able to heal than the grace of God.
And then I see all the units that had taken off lights and sirens. I just see them all trying to make U-turns. And we're trying to figure out what's going on. And then I see a white van heading towards our direction, just off in the distance. But I could see it weaving in and out of the roadway. The way my unit was parked, I was able to set up on the opposite side of my hood with my rifle up, pointed westbound down off Dr. Emmett Headley towards the van.
It has been confirmed that the active shooter was shot. That's their wording. The active shooter was shot and killed at Synergy in Odessa. There is no active shooter at this time.
We all felt this way. It had to end. It couldn't go past that. We had to stop him. Nobody else had to get hurt, or we didn't want anybody else to die.
As I'm going home, it's starting to wind down. That's when it really hit me. Such a long career here, I've seen a lot, things that people shouldn't see. But you deal with it. You know that it's part of the job. Yes, we get back and we brief and we talk to each other and make sure that everybody's okay. And you kind of build calluses to some of the things you see. This one, there was really nothing that could help us prepare for what we were going to feel emotionally.
A big part of the event that kind of carries on with the first responders is, a lot of the first responders, they get the survivor's guilt as well. Everybody that was working that day and really tested them and their abilities, and you're always going to have that question of, when you look back and review it, did we do everything that could be done, and was everything effective and efficient, and you know it was, no matter how many times you go back and forth over it. But just having to deal with such a loss of life is difficult for everyone involved, and first responders especially.
It's not something you forget. It's not that easy to forget. We're doing things different now. I mean, of course, we can't live in fear because we're living in a pandemic. We're going through a pandemic right now where people are living in fear. But the pandemic today is something that we have control over. That day, there was no control of anything. We didn't have any control of where he was, what was going to happen. It's everyone that responded trying to get to people to their safety. You know, I just really want to thank you guys, because you guys did a magnificent job that day in trying to protect our community. And I know that you guys put your life on the line, because honestly, if you think about it, your families didn't know if you were going to come home that day.
We go through our careers and we train for some of the known and a lot of the unknown. You know, we can't control what we're running to, what we're being called out for, but we do try to control the chaos.
Such a weird thing to wrap your mind around, because we are strong in our Christian faith, and we know God has a purpose and a plan, but we personally do not believe that God would ever intend for something like this to happen. So as a Christian, it can be really hard to wrap your mind around, you know, why did we all survive that day, and why am I sitting here watching my daughter play with Play-Doh when there's other families that are now without a dad, or, you know, without a young daughter themselves. I don't have answers for any of that, and I mean, you can call it luck, and you can kind of call it, you know, it's easy to say things like we're so blessed that we still have her, and we are. We don't take it for granted for a minute, but you're also always acutely aware that there's other families that were also just sitting in their car that day, also just driving to some kind of everyday task or place, that are now missing someone really important to them. And so we do feel so blessed. I don't know, I kind of hate to use the word lucky, because it's just all too much for me to wrap my mind around, and you do feel guilty sometimes that, you know, we are in this situation, and when others aren't.
It was definitely overwhelming, but very humbling, because I didn't feel like I deserved any of that help, anything special, and it was definitely life-changing for me to see how much good came out of people I didn't know, and help however they could, which was very, very awesome for me and my family, because that time that I couldn't move, my wife struggled, my kids struggled, and it was a big struggle for months while I was healing. And everybody's help has helped us so much.
Wave in the air, wave in the air.
You always know that you should not take any day for granted, and that you should just wake up grateful for every day that you're breathing and alive. But I think when you come so close to losing someone so important to you, it just makes you extra thankful to just kind of take advantage of every single day as a new day, and to just kind of live it to the fullest.
As we approach this anniversary of what happened, I think it's important for everybody to remember, because this event affected everybody in this city, whether they realize it or not. This entire city was affected, but this entire city helped each other, and that help and that love that people showed for each other, it doesn't have to just come out when there's a disaster going on. It's something that we need to show and practice all the time.